You listen to them, now hang out with us. This is After 83 Weeks with Christy Olson. That's me.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
There it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our big, huge premiere. We are so excited that you've joined us. This is After 83 Weeks. You know what that means. We are breaking down your favorite podcast, 83 Weeks, with Eric Bischoff and Conrad Thompson. We're giving you all a place to chat about the show. We're going to cover any revelations made. Sometimes we'll have special guests calling in that can add to the conversation. Basically, this is for the 83 Weeks fans to fan girl or boy out. And it's the first show of its kind ever. Yes, it's a podcast about a podcast, which means that we are original and awesome, and I'm sure there's going to be many more of these after us. But we are not just on Apple Podcasts, we are also live on YouTube, and we want you guys to all join us in the chat. It's already rolling. Hello, Yo Keegs, Jay Ruiz. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you all again. Anissa, our very own Anissa, Lewis, Marie, thank you so much for coming and joining in the conversation today. And you're not just going to be talking to me, because as I always used to say, that wouldn't be any fun, would it now? So please welcome my panel tonight. First up, he recently made his in-ring debut at Brian Kendrick's Wrestling Pro Wrestling.
Victorious debut.
Okay.
And the devastating debut.
It was.
And you can find it on YouTube. I don't know how did you find it.
I'm not done plugging you yet.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I also call you the encyclopedia of professional wrestling, and for
still
good
that.
reason. Say hello to George Hermosa.
Hi.
Hey.
You can watch my match. I guess you go to the Wrestling Pro Wrestling YouTube page
Okay,
or
we'll
Twitch,
do all
whatever.
that at the end.
I just want people to watch it because it's awesome.
Because everybody wants to know who that handsome man is sitting next to you. A pro wrestling personality of 13 years and host of AfterBuzz TV SmackDown AfterShow. One of my personal faves. Please welcome Christian Rosenberg.
You seem awfully familiar to me. I feel like we've been in this position before.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Maybe
It'll
it's
come
just
to us
that.
later.
Yeah, I'll
It'll
think
come
of it.
to us later. That was a lot of chit chat. I do also want to remind everybody out there that we are bringing you commercial-free content.
Yes.
You will not have to endure any Blue Chew ads. No, what else have they had? Mortgage talk. You know, you're fine in your apartments. You don't need a house.
Well, we could never have too many Blue Chew ads.
Well, I think part of the fun of this is going to be that you two are both going to try Blue Chew.
Oh,
And then
I was
we are
not
going to
informed of this.
offer an actual unbiased opinion to all the listeners out
Oh,
there.
okay. I didn't realize we were old enough for that yet, but
I mean, you practically promoted it right now, but whatever.
Okay. They're working for us. We're working for them. And we want to jump right into this. So this week's episode of 83 Weeks was about Roddy Piper, the man, the legend. This needed to be done. They kind of went start to finish on his whole career at WCW. Guys, initial reactions to this. Were there a lot of things you'd never heard before in this week's episode of 83 Weeks?
Yeah, there was a few things, kind of some backstage stories. Kind of wanted to know just how he was brought in, just because we know Piper as a WWF guy at the time. He was just at Mania like a few months ago, or a few months before that. So I like knowing, hey, what made you want to bring him into WCW, which I kind of enjoyed, kind of starting off with that.
yeah, I thought it was interesting to really hear about it because during babyface Piper time in WWE, he was never really in the main event per se. He wasn't competing for the WWE title. He had one Intercontinental title run, but that was really the extent of it. But all of a sudden in WCW babyface Piper, he was champion, he main event after main event after main event. So it was really interesting to hear the backstory with it being, okay, well, here is a guy that is kind of past his prime as far as age, but technically as far as where he is on the card is the highest he's been since WrestleMania 1 when he was main eventing.
Well, that's right. And one thing that they Conrad kind of brought up and then Eric Bischoff never really addressed or answered, and that was that old folklore that WCW had reached out to Roddy quite a few times. And that actually every time that they would try to sign him, then WWE would come in. Bischoff didn't address that at all.
That was
I mean, do you think that WCW had wanted to bring Roddy in multiple times previous to this?
I'm sure they did, but obviously it didn't really pick up because '96 was kind of right in the middle of like the WCW boom. I don't want to say wrestling boom just because that was maybe like a year later, but that WCW boom with NWO was like the hottest thing in the world. And at least for me, when Piper came in, it was like I thought he was a WWF guy. I thought it was like, oh my god, like Piper showing up on behalf of the WWF. But I feels like there was always some loyalty to Vince McMahon a lot. I feel like a lot of people say that, but sometimes just you can't say no to money and dates.
That's right. And however it did go, Roddy did find himself at WCW, makes his big debut at Halloween Havoc. We didn't get, you know what I wanted was the really juicy story on how they keep this stuff secret, which obviously was easier back in the day, but they make so many mentions of one certain journalist, and how that guy didn't find out that this was going down is beyond me.
He can't solve everything.
Well, we don't really.
And even that too. Now I'll kind of mention that a little bit later during the Piper Nash segment, where just I feel like, and I'm not defending that journalist, but I just feel like sometimes people just want to disagree with him just for the sake of disagreeing with him, you know. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like that for now. This was a surprise. I had no idea. Again, I thought I didn't watch Halloween Havoc live. I remember watching it hearing about it on Nitro and Saturday Night, where I'm like, oh my god, Piper showed up. Like the fact that there was no talk, you know, because I wasn't big on all on Dirt Sheet. So to me, when Hall, Nash showed up, like all those people showed up, that was all a shock to me. So to me, that was like, I don't say the best time to be a fan, but it was a very fun time because we really had no idea who's going to show up next and, you know, back and forth, WWF, WCW.
Kids today, it's making me sound real old, but kids today won't know how much fun, like George, like you and I, because we're similar age, that we had the times where we were 13, 14, 15 years old, when we had to keep deciding which segment are we going to watch between Nitro and Raw, and we would have to constantly just flip the channels.
I remember
to
going
go back and forth. Yeah, because we wouldn't get spoilers, and because they weren't out there per se. Obviously the internet, AOL was just starting around that time. So finding out all this stuff, we got to tune into the beginning of Nitro to find out what happened at Halloween Havoc. All right, then I want to get to Raw, though, to find out what happened in the first segment. And you just try your best to keep up with both shows at the same time because there's no DVR.
Right.
So you had to do whatever was possible.
Oh, it was such a beautiful time.
It was.
It really was. It really was. So Roddy makes his big debut. What did you think about the direction? So Conrad and Eric are chatting this out, and I love to hear the kind of behind the scenes stories of like Conrad revealing, he was a fan and he remembers watching and what he thought in that moment when Roddy debuted and all of that. And then we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of everything. There's a little talk about Flair and who really was responsible for Roddy being there. Was this stuff that you'd heard before? Are these major revelations to you guys?
Not major, as in like huge. I just thought they were like, they go into specifics. Like, for example, they said like, there was a WCW executive that brought him in. Like the name, like I never heard of the name.
Some rando guy.
Yeah, just some random guy. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, he was a friend of so-and-so, you know? It's like, I never heard of that name. I mean, so that wasn't a big deal as in like, Ted Turner was friends with him. So, you know, so that kind of was whatever. But yeah, I mean, I like hearing kind of like we kind of overall know the gist of it.
Right.
But yeah, just knowing the specifics as far as like, we met with this, we kept it a secret. So again, I like
those contract specifics, like the fact that TNT was open to Piper having his own series possibly on the show.
Yeah, even that.
Really
that was interesting.
Yeah, like I didn't know that. I didn't know at all. Like the fact that, and I remember during that time, it was always something leading up to after Nitro, and I never really thought of that from a TV standpoint, where especially when Nitro is like maybe your number one show on the channel. You want to have a nice show after that. I remember one time there was like a Hogan Giant match that was going on for the belt, and the whole time they were showing the match in between commercials of the first episode of Robin Hood, which is right after Nitro, which is like kind of insane that you really think about it, kind of looking back now. So just knowing that like Piper maybe was supposed to be on some show or maybe some TV movie, which was still kind of a big deal back then.
Yeah, it's interesting because with those, I could kind of see it because, for example, Thunder in Paradise would go on sometimes before Nitro, the Hulk Hogan show. And so I can get, you want to lure people in so then they stick around, or you want to tune in after. Like, for example, WWE Raw in the Attitude Era. That's why they had
La
La
Femme
Femme Nikita.
Tune in for silk stockings.
Well,
I remember those ads.
But yeah, because it's just like, oh, an Attitude Era was a big thing of sex sells. So, all right, let's have this. Or you're going to watch the sexy girls and all the violence that's happening in the wrestling. So stay tuned, because after that, you're going to have a sexy badass in this action show.
Did you watch the Femme Nikita?
I did, actually. Well, I did as long as I was allowed to stay awake.
No, I'm saying
He was
11.
convinced.
I was on the East Coast.
11 o'clock was my bedtime.
Yeah,
so
so
he was convinced. But something that was definitely not in the contract or even spoken of, according to Eric Bischoff, is the fact that Piper has been very open about he's not doing jobs. He's got a family. He's not putting his shoulder to the mat for any
that's
man.
so crazy to hear.
But he didn't come into WCW with that attitude. And Bischoff makes it very clear what would have happened if he had. Do you guys think anyone in that era could have... Okay, do we really believe Bischoff that if Piper would have come in saying that he would have turned him down?
to an extent.
Okay.
I do think to an extent, because he was probably already promising that to Hogan, Nash, and Hall. So,
what I'm saying,
if
yeah.
all of a sudden he's like, oh, well, this guy can't lose, this guy can't lose, this guy can't lose. Well, someone's got to lose a match. So you can't have double DQs in every match. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he did that, because also if Piper's coming in as the babyface has to, be beaten down to then rise up and overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys have to lose from time to time. I mean, you look at today's wrestling, John Cena, Roman Reigns, they lose a lot. People don't realize it, but then, they try to overcome with the top baby faces. And that's what
Still
Bischoff
not
was trying to
enough
do
for
with
some
Piper.
people.
That's
Yeah.
so crazy that you think of Piper's WWF run, and he never really lost. And the only
No.
reason, the big story is that the only reason why he lost to Bret clean was because it was Bret Hart. He's like a close family friend.
Yep.
No shock, Piper's actually Canadian. But I heard they're actually really really tight, and the fact that he lost to Bret was more like, I'm losing to Bret, but no one really else. That's why you never really saw Piper with a belt
And it was a
or
roll
championship.
It wasn't like he was beating
Yeah,
down.
that's why you never saw Piper with a
Our
championship.
chat wants to weigh in on this. Demo says, back in the day, so many people in wrestling were super protective of their characters and not wanting to lose. That's so true. I'm just reading all the... Wow, you guys are really into this conversation. I love that. Joseph Bozes says, I would say it was controlled chaos when Piper was there. It wasn't until around 1999 when the virus was there, aka Vince Russo, that Piper was doing
Yeah, it was
dumb
around 99
stuff.
where WCW kind of went in the crapper.
Well, let's take a pit stop at Starrcade 96.
Let's do it.
Before we get to that. Apparently, Piper beating Hogan clean, this whole thing, there was no objections to it.
Yeah, because it wasn't
That's
for the
shocking.
It wasn't for the championship.
It was a non-title match.
Oh, okay. So you guys view this a little differently than I do.
When you say, like, when you have this big match and you have champion on one corner and the challenger on another corner, and you build it as a non-title match, it kind of comes as a little spoiler, like, oh, I guess we know who's going to win.
Well, to be fair, back then, because so many times in today's wrestling, if it's a non-title match and champions evolve, they typically lose that match, to build up the other guy, and then they're going to have a title match at pay-per-view. We didn't have that as much in 96.
Mm-hmm.
So would it have been an even bigger deal if the title was on the line? Absolutely. But the fans were so sold on this story, on this feud between the two, with all its history that it has. Neither could have been champion, and they would have still made it the last match of the show, because it was got such the build and such the names. So it would have had, I think, a better payoff if the title was on the line at WCW's WrestleMania. But it still lived up to its hype from a fan standpoint, because I remember seeing highlights and watching it when I was younger, and like over this last year, I went back and watched all the WCW pay-per-views from 94 till it was done. And I remember watching that match and it was just like, meh, it wasn't that good a match, but the crowd ate everything up.
Right. As Bischoff points out, there was so much of that genuine storyline that people believed that these guys had a real personal problem with each other. He also kind of drops a little bomb in there and says that's what's missing from the current product. I would listen to a whole podcast of. I wish you guys should have Eric Bischoff on the SmackDown After Show because I would love to hear start to finish
Call me.
his thoughts on the
Eric.
current
I
product.
think one of the reasons why the match was so hot, because I don't know if you just saw the pay-per-views, but I thought the build-up on Nitros were just as great. I mean, from that opening promo from Halloween Havoc all the way to the last promo building up, and I think a lot of that was because me as a fan, I started watching in '89, and the availability for '85, '86, '87 was not there for me. So knowing that this was still relatively new to me. Hogan Piper was new. Like I didn't know they wrestled in '85 and '86.
Yeah, I didn't know. I knew they had something because it was like, oh, these are two legends from WWE. But at that time, I just knew, oh yeah, I heard they wrestled at a WrestleMania. Never saw it. Didn't know the story behind it at that point. Thanks to that wonderful WWE network, now we can relive it. But
Jay Ruiz, that's Jessica. Hello, girl in the chat says Hogan lost to Piper because he was Piper. Hogan would never lose to a new guy.
well, that was part of the creative control stuff that we were talking about. So I mean, they can pick and they had the ability a lot of times to pick and choose who they were gonna lose to.
And I don't know if it makes a difference, but it's not like Hogan got pinned. I don't know if that makes a difference at all on Hogan's.
I'm sure it does.
Like
in your ego.
Yeah.
Well,
And he didn't tap out; he just passed out.
Yeah.
You know who has no ego?
Me?
Our wonderful fans in the live chat who are chatting
true.
along with us, and all of the whole, what do they call them, after buddies? Everybody out there who are fans. Our network produces after shows for all of your favorite TV shows, dramas, reality, sci-fi, and more. There's no network that works harder to serve TV fans. That's all of us. But we need your help. We're asking you to please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. We are, of course, on AfterBuzz TV, wrestling and sports, so hit that subscribe button. If you're worried about pesky notifications, don't, because they're optional. I know. We don't want that all the time. Hit that subscribe button for this channel. Please also hit the thumbs up because we're working hard for you over here. And let us know that you did so in the comments. We'll thank you on air. I'm glad that they brought that up, actually. For now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk. And please also go and show our page on Apple Podcasts some love. Like, rate, comment, subscribe. Please leave a comment. Start building that up. I will be reading every single one. So if you have something nice to say, that's great. If you don't and you really want me to know, then put it in the comments.
She'll know. She'll find out.
Podcasts. So moving along. Something that was, wait, I can think of a better segue than this. So moving along from after shows to after match no, I don't know. He made up his own promos. The Alcatraz thing was his whole idea. Go.
I did not like the Alcatraz stuff. I really did. I remember watching it, and that was like one of the first things that I remember watching at that age and be like, all right, this seems kind of cheesy.
So would you have guessed that it was his idea, as was revealed?
I would have had no idea who was the one who came up with it, per se. I personally wasn't a fan of it. I understood the impact that it did for the story. I just didn't. I'm like, no one's going to willingly lock himself up for however long it was. Was it a week? Was it 30 days? I don't remember.
George, are you surprised that Piper wanted to do that to himself?
No, but I thought it was great. It added a whole new element. Like, we didn't really see that in wrestling that much. So
True.
The fact that Nitro continuously kept, doing new things on a regular basis, I thought it was very, very creative on everybody's part.
And Piper being so involved in his creative and being more interested in that than the money.
Yeah, I like hearing that.
How much do you think that lent to his success?
Oh, tremendously, because he was so brilliant in the business. He knew the right buttons to push. He knew the right words to say, the right inflections on things. There's a reason that so many people consider him the greatest talker ever, because he just had that emotion about him. He had that draw. So when he starts speaking, I mean, there's very few people. Dusty Rhodes, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, The Rock, maybe you throw in there. When they start speaking, you stop what you're doing and you're listening to every word they say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not like you're going to say something else. But, it's I don't know. Sometimes it's really easy to say, like, oh, you want creative over cash, I guess you can say. But I think it's easy for Piper to say that just because he was so creative. Like, he knew how to make a dollar, going back to Portland wrestling and going back to working in the Grand Olympic Auditorium. So many stories about how he generated so much heat. I mean, we won't get into it, but just so many stories and just how he was able to talk everybody into the building for the next show and the next show. So for him to say that, yeah, it's easy to say because he was pretty much made a lot of money off his mouth.
One of our fans in the chat said it was great in wrestling when the talent could put their input into the promos instead of being so heavily scripted.
Oh.
And that's not fair to say because, I mean, it kind of isn't because there are a lot of people today that need the script.
Sure.
You probably know that very well. There's a lot of people that need the script.
There are
not implying you.
There are some that don't.
I'm not implying you.
There are some that don't, but there are some that you need to remember every single word that we're writing down for you because if you don't, you're going to be lost.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like they need it. Like they're just not that creative in their head.
That's right. And there's some people whose souls will be crushed by being handed a script and forced to read it word for word. I'm just kidding. Okay.
I taste something bitter. It's weird.
This is not that kind of a show. Do I look like Ryback?
Oh, your old love.
That was a slam. Slamboree 1997. Main event being the result of creative and promotion. Anything in Conrad and Bischoff's chat about Slamboree 97 that really stood out to you guys?
Mostly just that it didn't really come across that well. I thought the buildup was great. I mean, I liked the insertion of Kevin Green. I always thought that he brought something really cool because you can tell he wanted to be there as an outside.
He did
wrestler.
several matches.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
them. Yeah.
He'd always come in, but yeah, it was just one of those where the execution maybe wasn't as good as some of the
Right,
buildup.
but were you interested in hearing Bischoff's take on all of this?
Yeah.
Like, did that do it for you? Were you dying to hear what was really going on behind the scenes?
A little bit. I mean, like, because again, we all saw what happened.
Yeah.
Like, we can all see everything. So the fact that now we see what we don't see.
Yeah. Do you look at it any differently now?
A little bit.
That specific one, not so much. I mean,
But just overall, yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely some segments on there that's like, oh, well, that makes sense from that when this happened or that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some things on this particular one because obviously they're trying to do, so many matches in such a condensed amount of time. There were times where he was like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Or I didn't like it.
Or if anything,
That's pretty much it.
if anything, we might look at the match differently, kind of trying to find some form of miscommunication that would maybe lead to a scuffle in the back.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Ooh, that scuffle in the back.
Because even, I guess I was going to elaborate, but that's mostly about me. But go ahead.
This is a show about George.
You later. We
Yeah.
can talk about you later. Let's talk about this quote unquote backstage scuffle, which apparently was not a backstage scuffle in any way, shape, or form, but merely just a loud argument with a lot of testosterone pumping.
See, this is one of those things where, and Pritchard does this all the time too, but like, oh, I was there, so this is how it happened. And I feel like a lot of times, and that may or may not be the case, but I feel like they just kind of say that just to go against what's being reported. So, I thought I heard Kevin Nash say some stuff about this not too long ago before Piper passed away. So it's like, it was that's right. I didn't hear about it back when it happened. I heard about this kind of like, a few years ago when Piper had his podcast as well.
I can definitely see them trying to play down some of it because they don't want that negativity. However, I would also say that he wants to defend them because clearly he was very adamant that there is definitely something about that story that was not true.
Yeah.
And he really wanted to emphasize it. And it doesn't surprise me that quote unquote journalist that reported it, and it almost hurts me to use that word when speaking about that person. It doesn't surprise me that it was embellished. I mean, was it 100% how Eric worded it on the podcast? Probably not, but it's more so, I believe more so what he said than what was reported.
Yeah, he was so adamant about it. And I can't really think, like you guys said, to avoid the negativity or whatever, but Bischoff doesn't really have a lot of motivation to say that something didn't happen when it did. Don't you think?
I mean, you go back to the first, I think it was first or second episode of 83 Weeks with Bret Hart, and they were just going so back and forth with like, there was never a contract, there was a contract, I've seen the contract. So not to say that discredits Bischoff in any way, just when he's like so adamant on like, this is how it happened, it kind of makes it more like, I'm just saying it just so I can discredit, people. Because especially, like I said, I could have sworn I heard like Nash or Piper say pretty much the same thing that's been reported.
I haven't heard, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that.
There was some kind of scuffle, behind the scenes,
Yeah. So the controversy will not cease.
It's also everyone's definition of what a scuffle is.
That's true. That's
A
true.
scuffle could be an argument to some people.
Yeah.
A scuffle could be fisticuffs.
Yeah.
But no physicality
Right.
according to Eric Bischoff, who I believe was right there. I think he was right there in that room. I believe he mentioned a time or two.
I'll go with what Bischoff said for this scenario. He insists that he was right there, so I'm gonna go with, it was because we've seen, it's not like they've always had bad blood. I'm sure everybody's made up. Sid and Arn Anderson made up, for goodness sakes. Brett and Shawn made up. So I'll take Bischoff's word for it.
What about Piper and Flair? A lot of talk throughout the entire episode of 83 Weeks about the relationship that they had, about how much Rick and Roddy really genuinely liked each other. That was pretty obvious when we watched them on screen. But did you know that they really had that tight of a bond?
Yes. I've heard a number of interviews between the two, how close they were. At like the very ends of their wrestling careers when they were in WWE and were tag team champions together, which was I think Piper's only time he was a tag team champion. I could be wrong on that. You would know for sure, George.
Yeah.
But that's like the type of thing where they always looked out for each other. They always wanted to have fun together, whether it was as a team or as opponents, like there were so many times in WCW. So I totally believe that they just want to have a blast together.
At the time, I had no idea. Like 90,
back
91, 92, 97.
97, I had no clue.
They don't like each other. They've been feuding since, NWA and, in 83 or 82 and WWF in 91. But knowing what I know now and the fact that we all have that one friend that nobody else kind of gets, but we think they're hilarious. That's what I heard.
Me.
That's what I heard, that Flair of Piper. Like, Flair is probably the biggest Piper mark. I think he said that in his Hall of Fame speech when he inducted Piper in 05. But you can just tell that everything that Piper said, Flair was just cracking up. And like I said, knowing what we know now, it just kind of we like to look back and see I'm sure they were having the greatest time of their lives in that ring.
It certainly looked that way. And they both loved it, but then Piper disappears for a hot second in the summer of 1997, and it was good to get an explanation on this. I don't believe we've ever really heard an explanation, although it wasn't that juicy. It was simply just that Bischoff felt absence makes the heart grow fonder. And he said something else very interesting, which was that he thinks that using talent too much can be even worse than using them incorrectly.
I 1000% agree. I absolutely agree with that. He is spot on with that. We get oversaturated with certain wrestlers when they're on every single week. Also, at the same time, though, even ones that we don't necessarily need on TV every single week, you want to make sure that even though their absence is not holding other things back. Case in point, Brock Lesnar as champion, gone from TV for 3 months. If Brock Lesnar wasn't a champion, it'd be perfectly fine for him to make the appearances the way he does. So Piper, being really, he was there on most Mondays, but not every week. So it was, a special occasion. He really only wrestled on the pay-per-views. He would have an occasional promo on a Nitro. Very rarely did he show up on Thunder. Yeah. So given that time off, it makes sense, because then, also back in this time, when no internet spoiling, Piper scheduled to return at X date. We don't know when he's coming back. So when that did come back, then obviously it rejuvenated the crowd's huge pops that he was getting when he first made his debut.
You know what's crazy is that everybody likes to bash WCW and Piper was never there. He was probably there even less in WWF. Yeah, it's like he wrestled against Brett at Mania 8, and then where was he after that? I don't know.
Some commentary.
Yeah, for a little bit, and then no, it's before that, and then he came back as WrestleMania 10 as a ref, and then faced Lawler, but then he was gone again, and then he came back as a ref at Mania 11, he was gone again. It's like the fact that he was probably there even less in WWF. So how come no one ever notices it when it was there? But when WCW is where's Piper? They're just paying him all this money to not show up. It's
I think that was it, though, because of the amount of money they were paying him, because that was more than what WWE was paying.
But that's not on Piper.
No, it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Well, everyone wanted him around because another main theme of this episode of 83 Weeks was just what a great guy he was. And it kind of ends with Eric Bischoff getting choked up a little bit and saying how he misses him. What do you guys, what's your take on this?
It's just crazy because I remember, I think we all remember, it was only 3 years ago when he passed away. It's just maybe I don't know, it's a weird dynamic when it comes to wrestlers or maybe even celebrities in general, where it's like, wait, he was only so and so years old. Like that's crazy, you know, like almost as if like he needed or he deserved to live longer or whatever, you know. But it's like it's just crazy, like and then we kind of remember like all the good stuff that obviously somebody always has, like, oh well, they were awesome. It's like he's always been awesome. He's always been a special talent, and it just the legacy that he left as far as, you know, talk shows. Piper Spit was the first.
Yes.
Was the very, very first. And the fact that we've seen all these spawns of Piper Spit to what we see now, you know, just, yeah, I know.
And Bischoff didn't express any kind of regret over never having developed a segment like that for Piper at WCW.
Yeah, there was some talk, he said, and I would have liked to have seen that.
I mean, it would have been good, but at the same time, it would have probably reminded more people of, oh, yeah, they're just rehashing what they did in WWE. So I think it was actually as great as they would be, I think in the long run, it was the right choice not to do it. Now, that's as far as like what Piper meant with Bischoff and everything like that. I mean, I'm lucky enough to say, with all the years and everything that I've done here at AfterBuzz, definitely one of, if not the coolest things that I ever got to experience over my time here was when I got to interview Piper when we did Legends House AfterBuzz. I got this
At some like dark party? I feel like I've seen this video.
No, this was an actual AfterBuzz show. This wasn't some creepy party that I stalked him at, which I wouldn't hold against me for doing.
That's the other party
that was a different party. We didn't film that one. But so, you know, I got to pick his brain for 90 minutes, where it was kind of
90 minutes?
It was a 90-minute interview with Piper, where
shiz.
it partially was Legends House, but more so he was just telling stories, and how Bischoff always went back to like that childlike enthusiasm. The fact, like, as when he was saying that, I reflected on me because I got to feel that. So when Piper showed up, you know, before anything was rolling or anything like that, he was very quiet, not knowing, like, introduce himself, and he would literally went and stood in the corner on his phone. Really? And there was a gentleman that was here with him, and I asked him, like, is he okay? And he's like, no, he's fine. This is Piper. Just wait till the cameras start rolling. And then, sure enough, the excitement, the enthusiasm, the inflection, just the overall personality that we all grew up, that Bischoff talked about and what he loves so much in this podcast and what we grew up watching with on TV, was there for that 90 minutes. Show ends. Oh, thank you guys. This was a lot of fun. And like, it got quiet again. Wow. And it was just so fascinating to me. And it's something that I will never forget for the rest of my life, because obviously one of my heroes, being that in wrestling I do nothing but talk. Lord knows I can't wrestle like George over here, who's 1-0, but
3-0.
All right, whatever. But, you know, being that got to pick the brain, but more importantly, just see everything that Bischoff described. I got to see face to face. You can find it in the AfterBuzz archives. It's still up. You search it, you'll enjoy yourself.
I will be Googling that later.
Yeah. It was definitely one of the top 3 coolest experiences of my life.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is really cool. And cool to get kind of your firsthand reaction to Bischoff's description of that childlike enthusiasm.
Yes.
And that you can confirm that.
Absolutely.
Kiwi, is there anything else about this episode of 83 Weeks you guys would like to add before we do other fun stuff?
I feel like Bischoff doesn't have to say everything was compared to a 5-star Japanese, like, strong style match. He said that a little too much. But otherwise, you know, I really don't think Conrad gets enough credit for how he sets up these questions, whether it's for Bischoff, Pritchard, Schiavone.
He's phenomenal, and I'm realizing right now that I didn't do a good job of that, so I'm even more like, yeah, wow.
You did great. But it's just like, because obviously he does so much research and then twists it to make it a very compelling, open-ended question. It's not just a, did you like that? Yes. It's not that, like, we get more out of it if Bischoff or Pritchard or whoever is willing to share it.
You know what I love? Chat me up. Chat me up on this, boys. Chat me up.
You like the accent?
I like the accent and the phrase, chat me up.
You need your own little...
So continue to chat me up.
Well, I thought at this point in the show we should mention Blue Chew.
Actually,
Okay.
that sounds like fun, but I think I have a fun debate for us.
Oh. All right.
So, very interesting. The idea of a pickle on a cat's ass match. Okay, let's explore this for a moment. What would a pickle on a cat's ass match, which is just fun to say, if you can get it out, what would that be? Let's consider the scenario. So that would be where the winner is the first person to put a pickle on a cat's butt?
That's not a winner.
Is it you have to catch the cat and then take the pickle and use it? You can use it as a weapon?
I just want to know what Ernest Miller did to deserve this. Why was the cat treated like this in WCW? He was a 3-time national karate champion.
No, Jerry Lawler's ex-wife.
Or that.
No thoughts on what an actual...
I try not to think of that.
I would think the loser has to put the pickle in the cat's ass.
I would think the loser
No,
would have.
there was no in.
No, I would.
In. Where are we putting it then?
On.
I would think
Like above the tail?
I mean, that's also open for debate.
Why would anybody want to win that match?
I would think no, because I would think whoever loses that match would have to take a bite out of that pickle.
Yes.
No, that's not
Yes.
something to applaud at
Yes.
all. This is a terrible idea.
You know what's crazy? I don't even like pickles to begin. I don't even want.
I don't like pickle out of the jar.
I
without
don't really
the
love
cat.
cats.
Really?
Yeah, I have a slight allergy to cats. I don't like pickles. I would not sign up for this match.
All right. Well, it sounds like that gimmick match is going over just as well as any.
Put it on
with,
a poll,
with
then we're
Mr.
good.
Bischoff.
Put it on a poll, we're good.
That was fun, but I think we can have even a little more fun with this next segment, which we are going to call the After 83 Weeks News and Hot Topics.
Oh, hot topics.
Yeah. We'll have to get a little sizzling sound effect for that one. But we are not just going to give you the week's top pro wrestling news headlines, but also some of the hot topics that people are debating out there that they're discussing in the world of pro wrestling. So let's kick it off with Adam Page turning down WWE. But is it because the Bullet Club is coming together to WWE in January? All right, let me give you the details on this. So WWE recently tried to sign Adam Hangman Page, who is a huge star, we all know. And he said he would be willing to head to Stamford only with his full group beside him. On this week's episode of Being the Elite, we actually saw him open this package and get this gift from Triple H. So interesting. It was boots, and it was a note that said, if you want to be an assassin, you have to be cerebral. But this 6-time Ring of Honor champion, he's been part of the Bullet Club since he joined New Japan in 2016, and he is not going to WWE anytime soon. His cohort, Cody Rhodes, had something to say about that. He was, I forgot where this was. Oh, at New Japan on Sunday. Cody was speaking, and he said, January 1st, we are going to show up on WWE. Pretty possible. Okay, let me say that again for you people. Cody Rhodes calling the possibility of him and the whole Bullet Club appearing on WWE pretty possible. And Cody, of course, does become a free agent on January 1st, but he did add, my own promotion is still Ring of Honor, and I love Ring of Honor. Guys, what do you think about this? Did Adam turn him down because he wants everybody to go, and that's a possibility in January?
That's crazy to even think that. Like, if
That it could happen?
If somebody gives me a contract, see you guys. I'm leaving.
That depends. I mean, these days, yeah, in the WCW time, absolutely. In 2018, with how New Japan's going, with how Ring of Honor's going, with all these other shows, you look at the amount of dates and you look at what the dollar figure is. WWE will offer more money, but it's definitely going to be more dates.
Yeah, you're going to be on the road 300 days a year.
Right. So then it's a matter of,
And it can't be Bullet Club.
What works better? Yeah, they would not be able to use Bullet Club. They would not be able to use Hangman.
Yeah.
In a PG show. You can't go as Hangman.
Oh, yeah, no.
So
Think about that.
he might not even be able to go as Adam Page, since that's DDP, like Diamond Dallas Page. They don't want people to think they're related. So,
They would all get new names.
But yeah, you don't think Adam Cole will change his name?
Well, he hasn't yet in NXT.
What's NXT?
Yeah. So
he won't. If he hasn't yet,
yeah.
he won't.
So if I do not think Adam Page would accept it right now, because Bullet Club really, I mean, we just had All In. They're going crazy with New Japan. Really, right now, is the closest we've had to a rival like Monday Night Wars. What we have right now. And it's not even necessarily New Japan and WWE. It's Bullet Club and the WWE. Because wherever they go, that's the big story. So I do not think that they will be going in January when their contracts go up. Do I see them eventually going? Yes. Well, eventually the steam will go down, and then that's when they'll jump in because then they'll get a reboost of energy from it. I can never see Hangman going. I can see Marty Scurll going. I really don't see the Young Bucks.
Never.
I mean, I've seen them off and on for the last 13 years, and they always said, no, our home is never going to be Florida.
Well, I mean, but if they go to they
have said that.
But I'm saying if you're first off, I don't think they'd go to NXT.
I would hope not.
I think they're main roster ready, which means they don't have to live in Florida.
Anissa in the chat just pointed out that the Bucks did just lose the tag team championships. So.
They win them and lose them all the time. They've held them more often. They've held them more than anyone else. So that doesn't surprise me with that. And one thing the Bucks and all of them for that matter are really good at emphasizing the other people that are important to get over in New Japan, in Ring of Honor, in PWG, in wherever they go. I mean, all in, they didn't all win their matches.
Right, that's true. That's true. And, maybe once Cody's a free agent, maybe he just becomes, the biggest, best promoter of all time. And, you never know. And does both. He's not the only one people are talking about this week. Neville, who is really no longer Neville, but has made a surprise return to the ring. He's been gone for about a year. He's working under his old name. And he returned. He popped up at a Dragon Gate show just this, I guess it's like this morning, Tuesday. Like
kind of this morning, yesterday.
It was Tuesday there before it was Tuesday here. So this all happened on Tuesday. Broke out his signature red arrow.
Happened in the future.
It did. Which makes it even cooler. He whips out the red arrow. He came out with RED and also cut a post-match promo on fans telling them that he was going to destroy all of their favorite stars. Now Neville walked out. I can't keep calling him that?
You can call him.
Keep calling
I
him
mean,
that?
we know who you
What
mean.
should we call him?
Pac.
Okay.
The king of the cruiserweights.
Well, I don't think you can call them that anymore.
I mean, he's not.
Well, he walked out on his WWE deal in the last half of 2017, and he'd always been a mainstay at Dragon Gate before that, so we shouldn't, I guess, be surprised about this, and he's already being advertised for their November 6th show. So now that his story has that's the last chapter in his WWE story, do you guys think that the walkout worked for him? Would you say this was a good deal? He's fine. Everything's good to go.
It looks like it so far. I mean, he's already kind of creating this buzz. I mean, you already know that he's pretty much got whatever he wants to do in like New Japan or Ring of Honor. Like, him and Will Ospreay would be insane.
Oh yeah, those matches would be crazy. And then, almost, kind of going back to with the Bischoff podcast, talking about the history that Piper and Hogan had. Well, it's obviously not to that extent. But Pac and Cody have a history from WWE. So Neville could definitely, or whatever we're going to call him, really talented short guy. He can definitely be a mainstay as that group that's competing against Bullet Club in New Japan.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious if he can go to New Japan because Dragon Gate is a whole different company.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has some type of contract that allows him to do both.
Maybe. I think it's a bigger story. Just these people leaving, like Cody, Ryback, Barrett, like they all left at the same time. It's like, what's going on over there, dude? Is it really the dream job?
Yeah.
Is it really what?
The dream job?
Oh. Well, Becky Lynch has been expressing some distaste. She's not on the Super Showdown poster, and she tweeted and said, and people wonder why I think I've been overlooked. Would you suggest a walkout to someone like a Becky Lynch? Should she try her hand at this Pac thing?
I don't know if I would suggest a walkout as of yet, just because as big as, women's wrestling has certainly been booming the last year and a half, 2 years. I don't know if it would be at the point yet for someone as high on the mainstream level as Becky Lynch jump to. I mean, look, right now, girls like Chelsea Green and Tessa Blanchard, they're crushing and they're fantastic.
Yes.
And even Brandy Rhodes to an extent, even though she doesn't do too much of the wrestling, but is heavily involved with all the women's stuff. Tennille Dashwood, of course, also, because that was the first one really to kind of leave WWE and start
getting
in all
by
this.
choice, though.
True. So yeah, if this is by choice, I mean, it would certainly catapult independent women's wrestling.
We just saw Becky the other night at Wrestling Pro Wrestle or
She
whatever.
loved the show.
Would you have said to her, like, hey, Becky, what advice would have you given her for the predicament that she is in, where she feels like she's been overlooked?
I would say continue to be a heel, which she is. I don't care what anyone else says. And keep kicking ass because you are the #1 woman in the WWE right now, and you will stay there for a long time.
She's Conor McGregor.
I can see that.
Like, some people may not like him, and some people love him.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to get a reaction.
I think pretty much everyone loves Becky Lynch.
I like Becky
I would
Lynch.
hope so.
I love Becky Lynch.
She thought my segment was hilarious the other night, by the way. She was laughing hysterically.
Oh, I didn't see that, even though I was sitting.
No, she was. No, I
saw. But I believe you.
I was pretty much staring at her the entire time, but no one could see because I was wearing shades.
No, it was great to see her. Nigel McGuinness was there as well.
Yeah. Katarina.
Good to good to run into all of them. But a guy who's maybe not quite as popular, Alberto El Patron. Big announcement that he's planning to return to MMA next year with Combat Americas. He wants to have a super fight, and he wants to do it in Mexico City, of course. And he says this is because he doesn't like the direction of the pro wrestling business right now. However, is it just because he can't get any work with pro wrestling companies anymore?
Because he doesn't show up to his job.
Not show up? I mean, come on. This is not completely out of the realm for him, though. He started fighting in 2001 and competed outside the U.S. in MMA. He lost his last professional fight, though, in 2010 by TKO. Ouch. And left the sport with what was a 9-5 career record. Not bad, actually. George, you're our MMA guy.
I wonder if that last fight was against Mirko Krokop where he got knocked out. But I like Alberto El Patron. I mean, him hung out one time. He was like a very nice guy.
Well, that's one person.
How did I forget that story? Because you used to tell it all the time.
I mean, he was cool. I mean, we didn't talk about him going back to MMA. I mean, if anything, we talked about 2019 kind of being the last year that he's going to be wrestling, and then he's going to call it a career. But I mean, if he does, I'm going to be watching. Is that what it's all about?
MMA,
Yeah. I'll be watching. Are you not going to be watching to see if he gets his butt kicked?
I would only be watching if he has an MMA match against CM Punk.
He would destroy CM Punk.
Because then one of them has to win. And hopefully they both show up.
Or at least Alberto can win a fight.
Well, there's a considerable.
Well, it's been 8 years.
There's a considerable size difference there. I mean, is that a real possibility of that happening?
It would have to be weight class.
So. Yeah,
height doesn't matter. It's weight.
I'm saying different. I'm saying I don't think if Punk fights at 170 or even 185, I don't think Del Rio gets down to that weight. He's a tall guy.
You're saying don't hold our breath on that one.
Yeah,
right?
they would never fight.
Oh, it's probably not going to happen. I was just saying like that. I would tune into that.
If anything, I mean, I know it's a different company, but like they should fight like Jack Swagger.
Yes, he should fight Jack Swagger, but it's been over 8 years since he's been in the ring. Would he have a chance against a Jack Swagger or against anyone, really?
Sure. I mean, he used to train. Not like Punk, who just completely started cold turkey.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not an expert in MMA per se. I know obviously he did it, but obviously 8 years is a long time. And it's not like pro wrestling where you can have where like a Shawn Michaels is out for 4 years and all of a sudden is better when he comes back. It's not going to be that case.
Well, we shall see. We will definitely keep all you After 83 Weeks fans out there posted on all of that because I love to report the news. That was so fun.
Yeah, well, reports is in your name.
It's been a long time.
Your last name is Reports.
Yeah. I mean, it is now again, yes. And it feels freaking good. It feels freaking good. This is going to be a very long wrap up to the end of this, I can tell already, but I do want to say that this has been an incredible amount of fun. This was sort of Keven, our EP, our Captain Undergaro, yes. This was sort of his idea, and I think it's going to be a good one. I hope you all enjoyed it. We don't know what's going to be on 83 Weeks next week because I didn't say it at the end of this episode. Anybody out there, if you get the inside scoop, if you see something, please reach out to us on social media. I also bought the $9 Patreon membership because I thought that might get me something fun or something extra, but all I got is some kooky Saturday night.
Oh, nice. Do you get Blue Chew?
Because
apparently we're going to try it on air.
Apparently we're trying it.
No Blue Chew.
Could next week's 83 Weeks be an 83 Weeks edition on our 83 Weeks After Show? And we just go complete Inception?
Fingers crossed. I'm actually kind of surprised that I haven't heard from them yet because I've been socialing about this. all day yesterday and today, so I am curious to hear what they think about us covering their show. Like I said, I'm sure they'll reach out to us. I kind of wanted to maybe get one of them to call in today, but I also wanted to get the show rolling before, because if they didn't know about it, maybe, you never know. So I thought, let's get out, let's make it a thing first.
Now the phones will be off the hook.
And then we'll make sure that they know that it's happening. Exactly.
We weren't just saying it. It's really happening, everybody.
We're here. You guys are all here and joining in with us. A big, huge thank you to all of you. I can't even say all your names because you guys are there.
So many.
The chat was on fire. So please remember, we're doing this live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time, America time.
America.
For our international fans out there. So please come and join us in the live chat because I want to know what you all think about this. We have our hashtag after 83 weeks rolling now. Please use that when you're listening to 83 weeks to express your thoughts and let us know what you thought about the show. I want to read tweets from you guys. We want you all to be involved as much as possible. We can have you guys call in too eventually. I didn't want to mess with the timing today.
Yeah, I'd love to to chat to
any other time. I really want to chat with you
Yeah,
guys.
if anything, I'd love to talk to somebody like that, listen to the show, because I listened to it yesterday. You said you listened to it today, or listen to it today. Like, I want to chat with everyone else,
Yes, this is about you guys out there and a little bit about Eric Bischoff and Conrad.
Just a tad.
just a
scotch.
Just a tweensy bit. And make sure that you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, rate, leave those comments, because we will be reading every single one. And also a very special thank you to George Hermosa and Christian Rosenberg for joining me tonight. What do you guys got going on? Tell everybody where to... Now, George, now you can tell everybody where to...
Do you know where? Because I do.
It's October 25th. But I was just saying, I like the behind-the-scenes story, because if anything, I had my first match last Thursday, and there's so much behind-the-scenes story just for that one match, from it getting canceled, from it not getting canceled, from getting the wrong ref, all these things, all this backstory.
I can't wait for your 83 weeks on your debut.
Yeah, right. It's gonna be 1 week or 1 day. But yeah, it's just the fact that that is a perfect example of I love hearing this kind of stuff, the backstory behind that, whether or not there was a scuffle, even I've been listening since day one, yes. So I like this kind of stuff, and the fact that we can now react to it, and hopefully we can get someone in and be like, hey, this is really what happened, or that's what happened, and this
All right,
this
tell
is fun.
everyone where to watch your match.
I want to say the YouTube page for Wrestling Pro Wrestling.
Probably.
It's 51 minutes in. I wrestle. I give Kid Sister a nice, devastating beating.
You could also watch it on twitch.tv/Wrestling Pro Wrestling. I'm in the segment before him, along with AfterBuzz favorite The Hobo.
That was good stuff.
We're all involved. People remember Women's Wrestling Weekly's Sarah the Rebel. She's involved. She's in the first match of the night.
That's cool.
So all of us are involved in that.
All right, and if they can't find it and they want to hit you guys up, social media.
Real Rosenberg on Twitter, Instagram, The Real Rosenberg, prosentees.com/Christian Rosenberg, or prosentees.com/Wrestling Pro Wrestling, like this shirt that I'm wearing right now. And tune in SmackDown AfterBuzz, 9 p.m. Pacific. I'll be there.
Oh, yeah, that's happening shortly tonight. So
yes.
Everybody who's hanging out, just stick around. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
You can follow me at G Hermosa, GHERMOZA, G Hermosa, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, mostly Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, you can follow me there. Let me know what you think of my match.
And make sure you guys watch Women's Pro Wrestling Weekly this week on AfterBuzz TV. My friend Zeta Zhang's going to be on talking to TK. So make sure you tune in for that tomorrow. And they're saying #Team Christy in the chat. Wow, you guys are so freaking awesome. I'm so glad to be back sitting at this table with this big crazy yellow and black microphone in front of my face, talking to all the usual suspects in the chat. This has been fun. I already can't wait to do it again next week. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe and hit the thumbs up and all that good stuff. Use #after83weeks, and we will see you next week right here, same time, same place. Adios.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.